The knife was cold against Zara's throat. Not a metaphor, not a fear. Real steel, real pressure, real blood trickling down her collarbone. She'd made it 3 steps into the soul alley before the first hand grabbed her jacket, before the second blocked her escape, before the third appeared with a blade that glinted under the streetlight like a promise of death. "Don't scream," the man whispered in accented English. His breath smelled like cigarettes, and something worse. Something like certainty. Like he'd done this before. Zara's heart hammered so violently she thought it might crack her ribs. Her hands trembled. Her legs wanted to fold beneath her. Every survival instinct was screaming, but her voice was frozen solid in her chest. "Your father," the second man said, stepping closer. His face was scarred, weathered like old leather. "He thinks he can hide from us." No, this wasn't happening. Zara had left the club alone against her friend's warnings. She'd wanted fresh air. She'd wanted a moment away from the noise, the lights, the chaos of her own life collapsing around her. She'd definitely not wanted this. "Please," she whispered, the word barely audible. "I don't know what you want. I don't know my father's business. I'm just a student." "We know exactly who you are," the third man said. He was smaller than the others, but somehow more terrifying. His eyes were empty, soulless. "Zara Okafor, 24, business student at Seoul University, apartment on Gangnam Street, mother in Lagos, best friend Amara, favorite food is jollof rice." Each detail was a hammer blow. They knew everything. Everything. "Why?" she choked out. "Because you're easier to reach than he is," the scarred man said. He nodded to the one holding the knife. The pressure increased. Not enough to kill. Not yet. But enough that Zara felt the sting of the blade breaking skin. Enough that she understood they weren't bluffing. She opened her mouth to scream. A hand clamped over it. But it wasn't one of the men's hands. The alley went silent except for the wet sound of impact. The scarred man crumpled first, blood spraying across the grimy brick wall. Zara's vision blurred with terror. She couldn't process what was happening. One moment her attackers were solid and real and terrifying. The next moment they were fragments, scattered like broken glass. The knife fell away from her throat. The hand over her mouth released her. A shadow stood between her and the bodies. A man. Tall. Dressed entirely in black, like he'd been cut from the night itself. He moved with the kind of controlled grace that belonged to predators, the ones that killed not out of anger, but out of pure, calculated necessity. "You picked the wrong girl," he said, his voice like gravel dipped in velvet. The third attacker, the one with empty eyes, made a sound somewhere between a scream and a prayer. He scrambled backward, but the man in black was faster. He was always going to be faster. The fight, if you could even call it that, lasted maybe 7 seconds. 7 seconds of poetry and violence. 7 seconds of watching someone realize they'd made their final mistake. By the end, only the man in black was standing. The smallest attacker was on his knees, begging. Actually begging, tears streaming down his scarred face as he confessed everything. The phone call, the order, the price on her head, the man who'd paid it. Every word tumbled out like water through a broken dam. Then the man in black hit him, not with rage, but with the kind of practiced efficiency that suggested he'd been hitting people professionally for a very long time. The attacker went limp. Silence crashed down like a wave. Zara couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but stare at the man who'd just saved her life, or ruined it, or both. She still wasn't sure which. He turned toward her slowly, like he had all the time in the world. Like 3 men lying broken on the ground was nothing more than a minor inconvenience. He pulled out a white handkerchief and began wiping blood off his hands with the casual precision of someone cleaning up after dinner. "Zara Okafor," he said. His accent was soul pure, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "You shouldn't be in this city." Terror flooded through her again, fresh and hot. "How do you—" "I know everything," he interrupted. He stepped closer and she stepped back, her spine pressing against the cold brick wall. "I know your mother wants you married to someone safe, someone from home, someone named Cheeky." "Stop," Zara whispered. "I know your father is drowning in debt. Deep water, the kind that doesn't have a bottom." Another step closer. "I know you came to Seoul to prove something, to escape, to be someone other than the girl your family expected you to become. How do you know all of this?" He smiled then, and it was the most dangerous thing she'd seen all night, which was saying something considering the bodies on the ground. "I know everything that happens in this city," he said. "Everything. Every business deal, every secret, every daughter of every man who owes money to the wrong people." Zara's throat was dry. Her mind was racing through impossible scenarios, each one worse than the last. "Who are you?" The man stepped so close she could feel the heat radiating off his body. His eyes were dark brown, almost black, and they held the kind of intensity that made her forget how to form complete sentences. He reached out and tilted her chin up with one finger, just one finger, forcing her to meet his gaze. "I'm your worst mistake," he whispered. "My name is Kang Min-jun, and you just became mine." Before Zara could respond, before she could even process what he meant, her phone erupted in sound. The sudden noise made her jump. Min-jun stepped back slightly, made the world crash back into focus. It was a FaceTime call. Her mother. Zara's hand shook as she pressed accept. Her mother's face appeared on the screen, radiant and glowing. Behind her, Cheeky was sitting on the living room couch, the same couch where Zara had spent countless childhood afternoons. He was smiling that safe smile, that comfortable smile, that smile that represented everything her family wanted for her. "Zara, my daughter." Her mother's voice was bright, almost manic with excitement. "I have the most wonderful news." "Mama?" Zara started, but her mother was already talking. "Cheek is coming to Seoul tomorrow." "Tomorrow, my dear, he's going to propose to you. Finally. My baby will be married to a good man, a man who knows our family, a man who will take care of you." In the background, Zara could hear the sound of her family's home, the laughter of cousins, the clattering of pots from the kitchen, the life she'd left behind. The life that was reaching through the phone and trying to pull her back. "Mama, Your father is so happy, Zara. He's been so stressed, you know, with his business struggles. But with this marriage, everything will be settled. Everything will be better. Your father will forgive the debts. The families will be united. It's perfect, my dear. It's absolutely perfect." Zara felt cold. Her father's debts. The men on the ground. The man behind her. She didn't have to turn around to know Min-jun was there. She could feel him. Could sense him like an animal senses a predator. He was standing directly behind her now, so close that she could feel his breath against the back of her neck. "Tell her yes," he whispered. Just those 3 words, but they carried absolute weight. "I can't," Zara whispered back. His arm wrapped around her waist, slow and deliberate, not violent, not threatening, but claiming, like he was drawing a line around her and marking her as his territory. "Tell her yes," he repeated, and this time it wasn't a whisper. It was a command wrapped in velvet. Zara's mother was still talking, oblivious to what was happening on the other end of the line, still celebrating, still planning, still imagining a future where her daughter married the safe boy from home and lived a safe life. "Tell her yes," Min-jun said again, and his arm tightened around Zara's waist. or your family's debts disappear. All of them. Every penny your father owes, it will all vanish. Zara's breath caught. But if you say no, Cheek never makes it to Seoul. He disappears. Not dramatically, not violently, but permanently. And your family will spend the rest of their lives wondering what happened to him. It wasn't a threat. That was what made it so terrifying. It was simply a statement of fact. A description of what would happen if she made the wrong choice. The phone was still pressed against her ear. Her mother's voice continued, bubbling with joy and plans and expectations. Wedding colors, guest lists. The future her family had already decided for her. Zara's mind was fragmenting. One part of her was still in the alley with this dangerous man whose name she'd just learned. Another part was in Lagos with her family, watching Cheeky smile. A third part was somewhere else entirely, somewhere between the two, trapped in an impossible space where every choice led to disaster. "Mama," Zara interrupted, her voice surprisingly steady. "Wait, I need to tell you something." Her mother paused, sensing the shift in her daughter's tone. "Your father's debts," Zara said carefully. "The business troubles. Are they going to be solved? With the marriage?" There was a long silence on the other end. Then her mother's voice came back, quieter now, more careful. "Yes, my dear. Cheek's family has already promised to help. They've been discussing it with your father. Everything will be taken care of. This marriage is salvation for our family. Don't you see? This is God answering our prayers." Zara's eyes closed. She could feel Minjun's heartbeat against her back. Could feel the weight of his presence, the gravity of his power, the absolute certainty that he would do exactly what he'd promised. "Tell her yes," he whispered again, and this time, his lips brushed against her ear. Zara forced a smile onto her face. The smile of a good daughter. The smile of a girl who was choosing the life her family wanted for her. The smile was a lie, but her mother couldn't see the tears forming in her eyes. "Yes, Mama," Zara said, her voice steady despite the hurricane inside her chest. "Tell Cheek yes. I'll marry him. I'll say yes." Her mother screamed with joy. She was already calling to her family, already making plans, already weaving Zara's future for her. In the background, Zara could hear Cheeky shouting in celebration, could hear the sound of her cousins cheering, could hear the life she was surrendering to, piece by piece. "I love you so much, my daughter," her mother said. "You've made us so happy, so proud. Your father is going to cry when he hears this news." "I love you too, Mama," Zara whispered. And she meant it. She did love them. That was the cruelest part of this entire nightmare. She loved them, and that love was exactly what was being used against her. The FaceTime call ended. Zara stood in the dark alley with blood on the ground and a man's arm around her waist, and she understood something fundamental had shifted in her life. She'd made a choice. Or rather, she'd been given no choice at all. Minjun turned her around slowly to face him. His eyes were unreadable, but there was something almost tender in the way he moved. He reached out and wiped a tear from her cheek with his thumb. "Good girl," he whispered. Zara's entire body was shaking now. The adrenaline was wearing off, replaced by a deep, bone-level cold that had nothing to do with the Seoul night air. "What are you going to do with me?" she asked. Her voice sounded small, broken. Minjun didn't answer immediately. Instead, he studied her face like he was memorizing every detail, like she was a puzzle he was trying to solve. "You're going to stay in Seoul," he said finally. "You're going to break your engagement to Cheeky in exactly 3 days. You're going to tell your family that you've fallen in love with someone else, someone powerful, someone who can protect them better than any arranged marriage ever could. And if I don't? Then Cheek dies. Your father's debts triple. Your mother gets a call informing her that you've been in an accident and won't be coming home. Your family will spend the rest of their lives in chaos. Zara's legs felt weak. She wanted to sit down. She wanted to cry. She wanted to scream. But all she could do was stand there, trapped in the circle of his arms, trapped in the consequences of being her father's daughter. "Why?" she asked. "Why are you doing this? You don't even know me." Minjun's hand moved to her hair. He ran his fingers through it gently, almost reverently. "I saw you in the club," he said, "and in that moment, I decided you were mine, not because of your father's debt, not because of business, but because the moment I looked at you, I knew I would burn the entire city down rather than let you leave." "That's insane," Zara whispered. "Yes," he agreed. "It is. But you're still mine now, and I always keep what's mine." He stepped back, releasing her waist. The night air rushed in where his warmth had been, and Zara felt the loss of it like a physical ache. "Come," he said, extending his hand. "We need to get you somewhere safe, somewhere my enemies can't reach you." Zara looked at his hand. She looked at the bodies on the ground. She looked at the phone in her own hand, still displaying the smiling faces of her family. She had a choice, but it was only an illusion of choice. Every option led to the same destination. Every path ended with Minjun. She took his hand. The moment their fingers touched, she felt it. A shift in the air, a vibration that seemed to run through her entire being. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. This was a commitment, a binding, a transformation. As Minjun led her out of the alley and into the soul night, Zara understood that she wasn't the same person who'd walked into that club hours ago. That girl was gone. In her place was someone new. Someone bound to a man who'd killed for her, who'd threatened her family for her, who'd decided in a single moment that she belonged to him. The soul streets glowed with neon lights. The city hummed with life and danger and possibility. And somewhere in those streets, Cheek was buying a plane ticket to Seoul, completely unaware that his engagement was already being torn apart by forces he could never understand. Minjun's penthouse was unlike anything Zara had ever seen. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire Seoul skyline, glittering like diamonds scattered across black velvet. The apartment itself was minimalist and cold, all steel and glass and expensive emptiness. The kind of space that belonged to someone who didn't need things to feel at home, because home was wherever he decided it was. "This is where you'll stay," Minjun said, walking toward the floor-to-ceiling windows. "Top floor, security on every level, cameras everywhere. No one gets in or out without my permission." Zara moved slowly through the space like a ghost haunting her own life. Nothing felt real anymore. The adrenaline had completely worn off, replaced by a numb exhaustion that made her limbs feel heavy. "Am I a prisoner?" she asked. Minjun turned to face her. In the reflected glow of the city lights, his expression was unreadable. "You're under my protection," he said. "There's a difference." "Doesn't feel like it." He smiled then, a real smile, not the dangerous one from the alley. This smile was almost sad. "You think I'm the villain in this story," he said. "But I'm not. I'm the only one keeping you alive. Your father's debts aren't just money, Zara. They're blood debts, the kind that get collected with violence. The men in that alley, they were the least of what your family faces." Zara wanted to argue, but something in his tone told her he was telling the truth. And that terrified her more than anything else had. "How long?" she asked quietly. "How long do I have to stay here?" "Until Cheek arrives tomorrow," Minjun said. "Then we'll handle him. After that, your family will understand that you've moved on, that you belong to someone far more powerful than they ever imagined, and they'll be safe, protected, better than they've ever been. By becoming part of whatever this is," Zara gestured around the penthouse, "by becoming part of your world." "Yes," There was no apology in his voice, no hesitation, just absolute certainty. Minjun showed her to the bedroom. It was enormous, with a bed that looked like it could swallow her whole. Through the open bathroom door, she could see a marble shower that looked like it belonged in a luxury resort. Everything was pristine. Everything was perfect. Everything was a cage. "Rest," he said. "Tomorrow will be difficult." He turned to leave, but Zara's voice stopped him. "Minjun," she said. His name felt strange on her tongue, foreign, dangerous. "Why are you really doing this? And don't tell me it's because you saw me in a club. That's not a reason. That's an excuse." He paused at the door. For a moment she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he turned back to face her, and she saw something in his expression that she hadn't seen before. Vulnerability. A crack in the armor. "Because I've spent 28 years building an empire," he said quietly. "I've killed men. I've destroyed families. I've become someone so powerful that people cross the street to avoid me. And through all of it, I was empty. Hollow. A ghost in an expensive suit." He stepped closer. "Then I saw you in that club. You were wearing a red dress. You were laughing with your friends. And for the first time in my entire life, I felt something. Not power, not control. Just something human." "That's not love," Zara said. "That's obsession." "I know," he replied, "but it's all I have, and I'm going to keep it." After he left, Zara sat on the edge of the bed and cried. She cried for the life she'd lost. She cried for Chike, who was flying toward a disaster he didn't see coming. She cried for her parents, who thought their problems were being solved when really they were just beginning. She cried for herself. For the girl she used to be, the girl who'd wanted independence and adventure. That girl was dead now. In her place was someone new, someone marked, someone claimed. She fell asleep around 3 a.m., exhausted beyond measure. Her dreams were nightmares. Visions of blood and darkness, and Minjun's voice whispering, "You're mine," over and over again. She woke to the sound of her phone buzzing. It was 7:47 a.m. She had a text message from her mother. "Cheek landed in Seoul an hour ago. He's at his hotel now. He said he'll call you soon." "I'm so excited, my daughter. This is the beginning of your new life." Zara's stomach dropped. Another text came through. This one was from an unknown number. "Cheek is at the Ritz-Carlton, room 1847. He's currently in the shower. He has a gun in his luggage. A gift from your father to protect you. He's planning to propose at dinner tonight at 7 p.m. at the restaurant on the 89th floor of the Lotte World Tower. He's already made reservations. M." Zara's hands trembled as she read the message. How did he know all of this? How was he tracking Chiki already? A third text appeared. "Get dressed. We're going to the tower. I want to arrange a surprise for your fiancé." Before she could process that, her bedroom door opened without a knock. Minjun stood in the doorway wearing an expensive suit, his hair perfectly styled, looking like the kind of man who could own the world if he decided he wanted to. "Good morning," he said. His smile was cold now, back to the dangerous version. "Did you sleep well?" "Where are we going?" Zara asked, already knowing the answer but needing to hear it anyway. "To meet your fiancé," Minjun said. "I want to introduce myself properly. I want him to understand what he's stepping into. I want him to know that you're not available anymore." Zara stood up on shaking legs. "What are you going to do to him?" Minjun's expression didn't change. "That depends entirely on how cooperative he is." They took his car. A black Mercedes with tinted windows and a driver who didn't make eye contact. The drive to the Lotte World Tower took 30 minutes. The entire time, Zara's mind was racing. She had to warn Chiki. She had to find a way to tell him what was happening. She had to... But what could she do? She was trapped in a car with a man who could destroy her entire family with a phone call. She was trapped in a situation of her own making, or rather, a situation that had been made for her. As they pulled up to the tower, Zara saw Chike walking out of the hotel lobby. He looked happy. He looked excited. He looked like a man who had no idea that his entire world was about to collapse. Minjun stepped out of the car. He moved with that same predatory grace, drawing attention from everyone around them. Security guards straightened. Pedestrians moved out of the way. Even the air seemed to shift when he walked. Cheek saw Zara first. His face lit up with joy. "Zara!" he called out, moving toward the car. "I can't believe I'm finally here. I've missed you so much and—" He stopped mid-sentence when he saw Minjun. For a moment there was confusion on Cheek's face, then recognition, then fear. Because Cheek, unlike Zara, knew exactly who Kang Minjun was. He'd heard the stories. Everyone in Lagos had heard the stories. About the Korean Mafia boss. About the man who'd made deals with Nigerian cartels. About the man whose name was spoken in whispers and prayers. "Cheek," Minjun said, extending his hand with a smile. "Welcome to Seoul. I've been expecting you." Cheeky didn't shake his hand. Instead, he looked at Zara, his eyes searching hers for an explanation, for anything, for hope. "Zara?" he said. "What's going on? Who is this?" Zara opened her mouth to speak, but Minjun's arm wrapped around her waist, claiming, possessive, final. "This is my fiancé," Minjun said, "and you're going to walk away from her right now. You're going to get back on a plane, and you're going to tell your family that she's chosen someone else." "That's not true," Cheeky said, his voice desperate. He looked at Zara. "Tell him it's not true. Tell him you want to come home with me." Zara wanted to. Every fiber of her being wanted to run to Chaik, to leave this nightmare, to go back to Lagos and her family and the life she knew. But she could feel Minjun's arm around her, could feel the weight of his power, could feel the futures he'd threatened to destroy if she didn't comply. "I'm sorry, Chaik," she whispered. "No," Cheek said. He turned to Minjun. "I don't know what you've done to her or how you've threatened her, but this ends now. Zara, come with me, right now. We'll go to the embassy. We'll get help. We'll—" Minjun raised one hand slightly. That was all it took. 3 men emerged from the crowd. Zara recognized them immediately. They were like Minjun, but smaller versions, younger versions, training versions. "Take him to the penthouse," Minjun instructed. "Put him in the basement. And Cheek, if you try to run, if you try to escape, if you do anything other than exactly what I tell you to do, your entire family in Lagos dies. Your mother, your father, your 3 sisters, your nephew. Do you understand?" Cheek's face went white. One of the men grabbed him by the arm and he didn't resist. There was no point in resisting. They both knew it. As they dragged him away, Cheeky made eye contact with Zara one last time. His expression was a mix of betrayal and desperation, and a love so pure that it broke something inside her. "I'm sorry," she mouthed. But Cheek wasn't looking at her anymore. He was looking past her, at Minjun, with an expression of absolute understanding. He knew what was about to happen. He knew what Minjun was capable of. And he knew that no amount of running or fighting or begging would change his fate. Minjun turned to Zara and tilted her chin up with one finger, just like he had in the alley. "Now that we've handled your past," he whispered, "let's talk about your future. Because you need to understand something, Zara. I don't just want you. I need you. I'm obsessed with you. And obsessed men do dangerous things." He leaned closer, his lips almost touching hers. "Cheek is going to disappear," he continued. "Not die. Not yet. But he's going to vanish so completely that your family will think he was never real. Your parents will think you imagined him. And when that happens, you're going to be all mine, completely, irrevocably. Forever. What are you going to do to him? Zara asked, her voice breaking. Minjun smiled, and in that smile Zara saw the full extent of the darkness she'd stepped into. I'm going to make him watch, Minjun whispered. I'm going to make him see what you and I become together. And then, when he's completely broken, when he has nothing left, that's when we'll decide his fate. Zara felt the world tilt. Everything was spiraling out of control. Cheek was in a basement. Her family thought she was engaged to him. And she was standing in the middle of Seoul with a man who'd just threatened to destroy everything. Minjun took her hand. Come, he said. We have reservations at that restaurant. We're going to have dinner on the 89th floor. The same dinner Chiki planned for you. Except now, it's going to be with me. As they walked toward the tower entrance, Zara's phone buzzed one more time. It was a video file. Just a single message attached. I thought you'd want to see what happens to people who try to take what's mine. M. With trembling fingers, Zara opened it. And what she saw on that screen made her understand, with absolute clarity, that she'd made a deal with the devil. And the devil never, ever gives refunds. Holy, that ending. If you made it this far, you're obsessed and I know it. Drop a comment right now and tell me, is Minjun a villain or is he protecting her? Should she run or should she stay? Smash that like button and subscribe for part 2, because Cheek's story is about to get dark. The video she just saw? That's going to change everything. Don't miss it.